competing at WCS Korea, so if anything, State is one of the most brave men in this entire building.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And how many other North Americans are on Korean teams, really? Like, over in Korea practicing. Is he the only one right now?
Only him right now.
Yeah, so incredible player. I'm super excited for this series.
Me too. It should be a good one. Let's go ahead and introduce these players. In the lower right-hand side, from Team Evil Geniuses, it's Jaedong. A bit of a fan favorite. Axel Toss, do you want to introduce the other one?
I'll try. In the top left-hand location, we have Jaedong's opponent, the North American player, who said, you know what, North America, I kind of want a bit more of a challenge. So he literally picked up all of his bags, flew over to Korea like Superman, and decided to start playing like a madman. He is State.
I'm a little bit sad there was an opportunity lost here. His name is, he's on Team Prime, and his name is State. And so he's Prime State, but he could have been Prime Real, and then maybe even add an A in there if he wants to be super awesome. Prime Real Estate. No, an E. All right. It's way too early in the, it's not. It's actually
I'm trying to follow this.
I got no excuse. I got no excuse for dim to bad jokes. But anyways, okay. So we talked about the map, King's John Station.
Yes.
It's a topsy-turvy map, a little bit windy. You can kind of see that there is a clear point A to point B, but along that path, you make an S shape, as it were, like a reverse S shape. But a big profile for this map for Protoss players would be the third, kind of exposed. There's an entryway leading up into it, and if you don't like that entryway, which is fairly narrowed, and can get even similarly narrowed down further by SimCity buildings, there's also kind of a backdoor entrance. So it's hard for Protoss to focus all of their defenses there. But as we saw, Axel Toss in the camera showing us, there's also a back door leading into the natural. So you kind of have to be everywhere, and you have to be moving very fast. But you also have to design your bases very intelligently. Otherwise, you run the risk of getting that back door in the mid and late game, or not being able to defend your third. So that's kind of the concern for the Protoss side. From the Zerg side, it's aggression. This map is good for that aggression. It's not a fantastic swarm host map unless you're comfortable getting to that middle base in the middle of the map. From there, swarm hosts are very powerful, but that's a pretty big if. We talked about the back doors. We talked about the exposed third. You leave yourself vulnerable in that way if you do opt for the swarm host tech path.
So Jaedong, playing kind of like Jaedong, completely skipping the spawning pool, going straight for that very fast third hatchery. So he has drones on his mind as far as wanting to get that economy up as fast as humanly possible, so he can really start pouring out those units.
Yeah.
What do you make of that decision? You know, again, we talked about that a little bit. This is game one, considering the map. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, in this case, Jaedong is taking a big leap here. I mean, 3 hatch before pool comes with its own certain element of risk. If the Protoss player is opting for any kind of like one base gateway timing attack, which is obviously on the very far end of the spectrum in terms of cheese, you're dead, you're in trouble, or even cannon rushes. But we see here, State just did not scout at all. It just now, we have a probe coming across the map. Actually, that might be a Zealot. No, it is a probe. This is his first scout. Well, the timing window to punish 3 hatch before spawning pool is gone. It's not there anymore. You cannot cannon rush from here. You cannot, I mean, you can try to do a gateway timing attack, but it'll be taking into account that all 3 of these hatcheries will be functional. There'll be a spawning pool, there'll be queens. All the tools necessary to hold it off will be there and in higher numbers than you're used to. So I think Jaedong is leaping out to a bit of an advantage in terms of build order. State's not dead by any stretch. He too is left unchallenged as well. So his opening has been good. It's just not a greedy opening as all.
Right, if we're comparing the Protoss opening, you're kind of restricted in making those probes. You got the second Nexus just coming up. Compared to Jaedong's 3 hatcheries, he can just power out those drones. Now, as you said, State scouted this. He's going for the Stargate. He can play a little bit passively if he wants. But is he inkling towards trying to apply pressure, trying to prevent Jaedong from just spamming drones? Is there anything State can do right now?
Well, State's doing that kind of generic cookie cutter opening that I think is very safe and good in most cases. What I don't like about it, kind of as my own aside with my opinion here, is that I feel like I don't know that he should be playing safe against, well, not super safe against Jaedong. I feel like State would want to go into this taking some kind of risk, either economic greed or perhaps some kind of more aggressive opening to try to slow down Jaedong. Jaedong's a very fast player. His mid-game is very strong, because that's the point in time when most players have, they kind of have a tough time because there's more things to control. Jaedong only gets better. That being said, though, it's not like State again, is taking any risks here. So the side advantage of that, if there was the disadvantage of what I just described, the advantage would be he's not exposed at all. He's moving out very safely. This Mothership Core has an Oracle behind it. Here we go, a fast third. And I like this choice a lot for State.
It seems like a situation where he sees Jaedong going for this big macro game and stays like, okay, I see you doing this. I'm going to stay safe, but I'm able to get a bit of a faster third. So now we're going to see if Jaedong tries to do anything to pressure that third. Hold that thought, though. State coming over to this third base with an Oracle. I really like this. You have the Stalker here as well to supplement. And a Mothership Core getting a significant amount of kills. These drones are all falling. 10, 11 kills. Recalling out the Stalker. Everything survives for State. Look at that.
State just did an amazing job. I really like what he just did there. The Mothership Core, the Stalker, are natural predators to individual queens, so they distracted and made it hard for the queen to make the choice. If it just focuses down the Oracle's still going to kill a 5, 6, or 7 drones and probably get out of there, but you'll lose a queen or two due to the unchecked aggression of the Stalker and the motion for it. But as it were, Stake had his cake and ate it too, excuse me, as he killed, what was it, 11 drones and the queen while recalling out. Very good. So Jaedong's going to go on the counter offensive here, but as you can see, on that production tab and looking at the mini-map, it's unsustained, so he's hoping to get a big reaction out of the Protoss. But he's warping in units. That's not so bad for Protoss. It's not like he's building 10 cannons or something like that. State's in prime shape.
I see what you did there. I
Had to make that terrible joke.
I mean, yeah, State's in a great position. That was a great offensive he did. And as a Zerg player, to kind of try to put this in easy words for everyone to understand, Jaedong, 3 hatcheries, right? You power up those drones, and then you just want to mass out the units. There's a situation where State got in the middle of that. He started killing all those drones, and then Jaedong was in a situation where when he wanted to make a bunch of units, he's forced to mix in the drones. So in a situation where he wants to pressure this third base from State and hopefully kill it, that's completely taken out of the equation after he loses all those drones, because he has to replace those drones. If he doesn't replace those drones, it's an all-in, and Jaedong doesn't want to do that at this point.
Yep, and I'll tell you what, something really interesting is developing here. We actually have a Spire, which is not your typical response to Stargate, but it's gone unscouted. Now, as I say that, the Spire in and of itself is nice, but State's build seems to kind of naturally take that into account. There's a Void Ray coming out, not the best against potentially Mutalisk, or even a large number of Corruptors right this second. It will be Mutalisk. But he's just added a second and third Stargate. So if this initial block of Mutalisk doesn't do anything.
Is that Star Sense, or what is State kind of reading?
Build.
Okay.
That was pre-planned. He might be a little bit suspicious because he sees these same like 5 roaches and lings kind of like touring around the map. That's tricking nobody, Jaedong. In fact, that's got to be a red flag for State.
Okay, coming in, he sees the mutas at the naturals, so he knows exactly what's going on. Immediately adding on Phoenixes in the production tab. Also has that air weapons level 1 coming. And Jaedong, there's a timer here. He wants to get damage done with these mutas. He spent so many resources on the mutas, but State is in a prime position to deal with it.
Well, you know, as you say that, it's interesting because if you look at the production tab, it's actually lings and drones behind this as well as an infestation pit. So I think the glimmer of hope here for Jaedong is that, yes, these initial mules are expensive, but he's not bullheaded about it. He's not sticking to him. He just got 2 Void Rays and a Mothership Core. He sees that Phoenix are coming out, and honestly, with this number of Mutalisks, he's going to lose all of them. So he essentially just traded 9 some odd Mutalisks, as long as these Phoenix follow through with this, for 2 Void Rays and a Mothership Core, and that's a favorable trade for our Protoss player. Now, where this can kind of flip on its head is State needs to find out, and soon, that Jaedong's not sticking with Mutalisk. He's adding on the Fleet Beacon, presumably for range on the Phoenix. Hold that thought, a little bit of attack here, but there's more than enough for us to hold it off.
No, and I think that's great. Yeah, that's a great point. You don't want to over-invest into the Phoenixes. Jaedong just made 10, and now is transitioning into Infestors. If you overmake the Phoenixes, all of a sudden you have a lot of supply booked up into something, into supply you would rather have somewhere else, like maybe go into the Colossus or something.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, it's interesting, because Infestors, yeah, they're a good response, I guess, to everything. They're kind of a Swiss Army knife in that way.
Sure.
But Phoenix actually still have a purpose against those Infestors. If they can, they'll pick them up and even pick them off.
Of course, the opposite being if a fungal lands on all the Phoenixes.
Exactly. That's, of course, the back and forth there.
Yep.
We can see here, though, that State has sniffed it out. He's like, okay, there's no more Mulas coming out. Probably because I killed so many, it doesn't make sense to make more. He's now switching to Void Rays. And with these Queens, Lings, and Infestors here, It's going to be an interesting engagement. Oh gosh, that Pro Stormers almost got snipped out, but State reacts in time, although it might not be enough. He's getting surrounded here, and this is a really good fight for the Zerg player.
I think State was a little bit caught off guard there. I don't think he expected the Infestors to be out so fast, and he's definitely going to pay for it here. Resources lost were in the favor of State throughout this entire game, but now Jaedong taking the edge in that department.
Yeah, so many tech switches. I mean, who makes roaches at the 15-minute mark after opening up the way Jaedong did it? So very back and forth, but State's right there with him. He's got Void Rays coming out. Now, unfortunately, with that fight, losing the Mothership Core, he has no Photon overcharge here, and even losing the Phoenix count, that thing that I talked about where they become a threat to the Infestors. With just 2 of them, not really. Jaedong's gonna back away here because his Queens are lagging behind. In fact, a little bit over ambitious here, but now with the Infestors here, it might turn around.
Now, 3 Void Rays in production at a time. Some people might be asking, where are State's units? If you can get a good amount of Void Rays up near your third base, the defense can be sound against this kind of army. But Queens are pretty powerful. Some Muta's still alive somehow.
Yeah, they're still annoying.
And Jaedong coming all the way across the map with these Queens. He really wants to make this work.
I'll tell you what, though, these are Queens off creep, but this army's not the biggest, so Jaedong might have bitten off more than he can chew. Now with 6 Void Rays, the Queen's getting picked up. The AA is just simply not enough. These Infestors just kind of sticking around. This could be how you flip it around on its backside. The Infestors now going to try to make an exit. And actually, the Phoenix are out of energy, so unfortunately for State, he's not going to be able to pick them up right off the bat. They should be fast enough to get their waddly butts on creep. Yes, they do. But now it's State on the aggression.
And I was talking about resources lost just previously, how Jaedong took a lead. Just like that, State jumps to about a 2,000 advantage there in the units lost tab. So, but it could change again. Yeah. This is what happens in ZvP.
You saw the matchup.
Great fungos there again. Jaedong on the high ground, catching State off guard on the low ground. Great positioning from Jaedong's units here.
Yeah, he's peeling off the shield. I mean, these units aren't the most important. He's got 1 Void Ray stuck in it, and now, as I say that, more Void Rays getting stuck. But the Funkles have kind of washed up, and this actually, in a strange way, is not bad for State. Funkles, they don't tear Void Rays down super quick. They need Queens, they need Corruptors or Hydras or something else. By themselves, it takes quite a few. Jaedong is going to try to capitalize on this positional error by State by counterattacking with the Lynx. They're going to get in here, and they're going to try to get us surrounded as much as they can. But nice warp in from State is going to block out some time. As I say that, though, Jaedong stirs to action.
There is going to be engagement here at the bottom middle side of the map. Void Rays powering down these roaches, the Infestors trying to throw down those infested Terrans. It's hard to say who has the edge here, but of course the Void Rays, so powerful in the sky. But again, remember, State behind this, what is he sacrificing from the Sling led by? It looks like State was able to clean it up back home.
Oh, State did a great job holding off the attack back at home, losing hardly anything. If he had detection here, this would be a damn near game-ending move right now. These Swarm hosts are pretty much kind of all that is standing between Jaedong and getting ran over on the ground. The Void Rays, just 6 of them, by the way. Not really an astronomical number. More than enough to endure the storm, but Jaedong switching back into Mutilus. What a topsy-turvy game. He shows Swarm hosts and says, hey, you might need Colossus. State ignores that, continues with the Void Rays, and is now adding Phoenix in time for these Mutilus about to pop out.
This is just a beautiful game of Starcraft. You can just imagine how fast these players are thinking, how fast they're playing, how they're able to read so quickly what their opponent is doing and adjusting, making the correct countermeasures. Jaedong making a bunch of mutas, immediately State queuing up a bunch of Phoenixes, so reading his opponent very well. And I still think State is in a very solid position. It might come down to securing this 4th base. Jaedong going straight for the 4th with these mutas. There are some Phoenixes here, and State keeping his distance. Doesn't want to lose too many Phoenixes there. The Infestors are here, though. Don't want to bungle to go on those Phoenixes. Jaedong actually playing this pretty well.
He's playing it pretty good, but it's a back and forth game. We see a backdoor at least being thought. State on a little bit of a brain fart there, not capitalizing on the position. Mutilus making their way over here. Honestly, the Archon's the big answer. Void Rays are okay, but by themselves, not great. Funko's starting to try to peel off those shields. The Archon does die. There's not a lot of Mutilus here, though, so if they do, they will engage the Void Rays, but it's going to cost them a pretty penny. Yeah, the Void Rays should be able to win this fight. A lot getting very low on health, but Jaedong at this point apparently willing to take the trade. Hold on, the Mutas might win this. And they are going to win it with 5 to spare. So Jaedong getting the better edge of that fight, and now State backing up, and he's not going to be able to secure this 4th base. No, and it's back into roaches. I mean, Jaedong is a moving target right now. He's saying, guess what I'll come up with next. The Mutalists seem to be ditched for now. The Phoenix are going to gain the advantage here, and once again, the Mutalists are either going to run away to be annoying later, which seems to be the case, or they're going to die. In this case, they do get away, but if you look at that production tab, it's back to Infestors, it's back to Swarm Hosts. And honestly, this plays to some of the Zerg's strength. Swarm Hosts, they mostly require Colossus. Mutalists, they require Phoenix, and as long as Jaedong can maintain an economic lead, which for right now, he kinda has, he will stay ahead of the tech path curve. But, you know, give credit where credit's due. State's done a good job of adapting as well. He's lost all his Phoenix, here they are back again. He lost his Void Rays, this Charge-Led Archon army, that's dangerous too. He's adding Colossus. He's getting to the point in time where he can be that all-encompassing Protoss death ball.
And speaking of that, like, the key number of bases you need for that, I feel, is about 4.
Yeah.
And remember, Jaedong was able to deny those so important 7th and 8th gases there. State trying to remake this base in the top right. He's not able to produce everything he wants right now. He just doesn't have the resources, and this is majorly due to the fact that Jaedong has been consistently able to deny that extra base.
Axeltoss, you bring up a good point. The Protoss on 3 base can make a very strong army, although I feel like it's fairly singular. If you lose it, you're dead. On 4 bases, I don't have any numbers to substantiate this, but Protoss just feels much more durable. They can make armies, they can lose tech pass, and they can fall back up. Now, one thing that's kind of a point of concern if you're a Jaedong fan, he's adding stack defense. That's good. Swarm Host, good. But he's adding Corruptors, and he's already seen that he's facing a 3 Stargate opponent that has just now switched back into Void Rays. Void Rays, they do not mess around. They make short order of those Corruptors, and unless they have tremendous investor support, which they do have available to them, they will die.
Yes, very accurately said. I mean, it's a game of positioning in a big way at that point. You want your Swarm Hosts to live. That's like your most important asset when you're going for this. And of course, those Infestors, very important as well. Your Spellcasters, the units that will pay for themselves over time in a very big way. So Jaedong has to be very sure to position his units correctly. State coming in from the left-hand side, a Fungal going down, hitting one very unlucky Phoenix. He's gonna get taken out. Another Fungal onto that entire death ball of State, and he is stuck. He cannot go anywhere. Jaedong trying to take advantage. Corruptors targeting down those air units, and State is running out of units here. Meanwhile, the Swarm Hosts being very safe, staying in the back, and Jaedong getting a great engagement there.
And I'll tell you what, that was a good fight for Jaedong, but you can see how costly it was. Some of his Infestors getting stuck behind the Locust kind of creep wave, as it were. The Corruptors almost evenly trading with an inferior number of Void Rays. I mean, never mind. That's going to be all she wrote. State taps